Africa Broma botse molweni dumelang re a lotšha batho ba modimo a tseba re keng today a re live ba khone re founela ene ba iputsa rena o mongwe o kae ngwana awa a tsoga botse mara at the end of the day ya tswela pele show re tswela pele re shifta ka mo gore nagana ka gona because nna le wena ge re nagana bokaone bokamoso ibe bo bokaone itsho into mntaseka xa ucinga ngcono banika velihle njengomuntu wasela apha South Africa especially umuntu omtsha asikho live akwazi usifumana ke but ke wasifumana ke ku social media ke abanye bese postile because I recordile sasoza funda into zabo namhlanje itopic mntasekhaya sicela uzohlala kahle uyimamelisise because especially thina abantu abamnyama kukho into ezininzi ezenzekayo sometimes ufazi ba it's a simple condition usakwagqirha ube right but abanye bathi jonga funeka usemntwini abanye bathi hayi unentwaso ininzi into ezekayo we're talking about anxiety which is one of the mental illnesses esiba thina abantu abamnyama nakongwari uleka jona because reputar hae but batona na re a ke shapo ka mnagano batona na re ke na le mathata kanti ke into ile gore ge o ile a khumana thusho ya gona ikopane otherwise kwa ngoku into wonderful enzeka elafini yakho what's on your mind? Alright, email lokuqala ke Khuthalo stand up are what's on my mind today is taxi drivers abathuka abagibeli abanye abathuka ngomama wakho lo mkhuba udlange kakhulu emayibuya inThembisa yenziwa ngabashayeli beJohannesburg Taxi Thembisa Taxi Association lento ithunzana isithunzi sakho njengomgibeli and shame sometimes abantu baya complain a bit none either complain our driver or complain abagibeli but bakungabi nodlame bantu kusho yena ke stand up. All right, and then go Twitter Sthando Muloyi athi we went to Zim the whole month, but when you got back yesterday, our bill from at City Power Joburg is still the same. This is daytime robbery. Hayi sanjana niyarojo. Kufuneka uyoyibuza because if you've got the previous bill, prove mntwana beningekho endlini, they should be able to rectify the mistake leyo. Uzungu athi the way the rand is, that's what's on the mind. Uchoni Babalo are just asking myself why government always take actions after the incident. They now to start to think of fixing Eastern Cape Road. It's too late. JP Maklelo are on my mind is freedom from white supremacy. Mamela kekule. Uto, have you seen whites working on night shift or doing general work? Bako namchan sometimes. Director wamuhleli nomunye ngoku. Thomas Beto Munyipa at morning shift. I'm going to a salon to make my style. Thomas, you look style. Bulile Tukochi. Are rich black people stop treating poor people like trash just because you have all the money or riches of the world? Stop doing what help those who need help. That's what I have on my mind. Happy new month, all you, but God loves you more. Good show, Yen. All right, so breaking anxiety is one of the mental illnesses, and a lot of us we are dying in silence. So do not suffer in silence. We want before you even let the family know or friends, because sometimes when no man if family is on tata snacks or snacks, you want to deal with it alone. Today we want to try and help you, but don't suffer in silence. It's a
Shift, SABC Education and bidobuy.co.za are giving away 30 vouchers to the value of 3,500 Rand each. You can buy almost anything on Bidobuy, from brand new products to second-hand items and hard-to-find collectibles. To qualify for this voucher, you need to be 18 years or older, have an email address and access to internet. SMS BID, your name, surname and birth date to 33720 now and stand a chance to win a voucher to the value of 3,500 Rand. This competition is brought to you by Bidobuy, a safe and simple online marketplace.
Alright, go amogela gape go shift. Today re bolela ka taba ileng gore ke mental illness and batho ba bantši especially batho ba bantsho re a itšhaba taba wa re nyako e bolela because rena mental illness e one go le motho montsho ge ile rona le problem ya mnagano ba rawa wena o loilwe goba wena o na le bathata ba go shafe scopis ganti there's a whole range of mental illnesses tše ileng gore a lot of people aba aware ka tsona nako ngwe no kry-a re depressed nako ngwe ba stressed nako ngwe tswalele ko ntlong for weeks on end o sa e feel because o nagana re maybe o na le mathata a gago a o tsebe go solva sometimes ayazi no yazi baqhubeka ntoni engqondweni yakho mntasekhaya abanye abantu bathi jonga it feels like there's a million ideas going on engqondweni yakho ayazi ba uqalephi sometimes ingqondo beshushu or mhlawumbe ulunywe nasesiswini because because kukhona into enzekayo apha engqondweni yakho, you can't even balance ibody yakho. Asikho live ke awukwazi usifowunela ke but uyakwazi uthumela SMS ke ku 33720 shift@sabc.co.za email address yethu ke mntaseka, and then ku social media sikhona ke ungakwazi ukomenta because conversation goes on go Twitter no Facebook ke shift on SABC1. Bazawungena bazasinceda uba siyenza njani na, how do we even notice these things and what do we do xa singabantu uyazi uba unengxaki, because xa ikuwe kufuneka uqale wena uyaaccept uqala and then uzokwazi uba ufumane uncedo, but sithi kuwe do not suffer in silence. Uqala ke psycho social amagama aphezulu mjana Thabisa lekamelu re tsubile man re lebogele fitlhile kere Siboshe chapo yo
Shop.
Dr. Tlaleng
Hi.
le kae
Leteng le kae?
re teng le Mzangwana
Hi, Shapo Njani.
ke grand
Thank
itu
you. Voila.
grand
All is good.
all is good
All is
all is good la ngichaza la hlompa aphe so dimese ka fela le ebile biso ridula phansi all right, before siqhubeka emntu esekhaya nanzi ke ixesha nomnojonga khabule ke ungafinqi kodwa Dichilo ba iyasinceda ba siya understand, abanye abantu bayayichana kahle baya understand, but some of us still don't understand because dichilo ba zininzi, there's a whole range ye mental illnesses. Dr. Tlaleng, a re ke qale ko wena, how do you work a mental illness before we define the different ones?
Basically, mental illness ki malwetse ne a affectang gagolo boko, and we know hore mo bokong ba gago there are also chemicals that helps to keep the body in balance, and those chemicals are also linked ko di system tse ding tsa rona kaofela in the body. So mental illness really it's a mental illness, yes, because it kala mo bokong, but the effects that thing can be felt in all of the body systems and do affect on a daily basis, because everything, even your thoughts, your ideas, everything, it's kala ko bokong.
Why rena batho ba ntsho sena di thametse tsa di mental illness, because rena ha una le mental illness ba rena una le problem ha o itekanela mo monaganong.
Re fela wa hlanya wa gafa o you know ntwana tseo, and a lot of the terms that we sebedisa, they are quite derogatory, so di kitse tse be motho fatshe di you know di explain a khatello haholo. So it's just one of those things, you know, even our languages as African languages had so developed to that extent where we have all the medical terms, that's our explainer, all the diseases out there. It's just a matter of developing those languages. And Rona, as we are here today to explain some of the things, maybe haba aware hore on a daily basis, in fact, mean a mental illness, because even in our vocab,
which is why a lot of us we die in silence, because we don't know about what
yes.
Yeah. Smosh, what's it?
Ke nnete mara motho a nke ka batlo admit hore ke a hlanya. O tlo batla isheba ka tsela e nngwe hore maybe a ke tse emotionally or ke ntho e kile ka feta ho yona e ile ya ntshwarang hampe, but then hore ke a hlanya, no, I wouldn't admit to.
But nete gore ha o hlanya, it's just another
Yeah,
it's a limitation in the descriptions, you know, and because it's driven by fear and not knowing, so all of us just tend to gravitate towards, you know, what we think things mean, and that's why no one wants to identify and say kilihlanya, because like you're saying, how hlanya, you know, but because maybe of the consequences or the complications that the disease is banting, then motu end up into the link out of character, for example, then oh no sposh king gas bosh wawan kanti hara understand hore sesusa sa utata handle ki a mental, you know, illness.
And one thing I usually mention is that, you know, the moment anxiety disorder or any other mental illness, you go into textbooks, you open a textbook, you read all the symptoms, and the moment you see all the symptoms, already you've got this bad picture or is totally crazy. And even if you're experiencing those symptoms, that stops you from actually saying I've got this condition, because already there are those labels. But those labels that are there are symptoms that allow professionals to actually diagnose and know what kind of treatment to give you. So it's very important for us to actually not look at those, because once you are on treatment, all those symptoms are now taken away and you can live a normal life.
And you finish symptoms too.
you know, look, if we focus on just anxiety for today, you know, you can experience heart palpitations, you might start sweating, you will have racing thoughts, but thinking about the worst. I think as people, Rena, we always think the worst of ourselves or about our situation. Nikubuelis Bosch earlier on, I was saying, you know, while you're in that situation, you actually, 1 minute feels like 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
You know, it's only until you're able to look at yourself in hindsight. You know, I was doing a talk the other day and I was anxious. And for me, it felt horrible. But when I looked at the video last night, actually, I was like, okay, this looks totally different. But even
because when I go,
exactly,
oh, what's happening, what's happening.
So while you're experiencing the anxiety, that's mild. So you can only imagine somebody who's experiencing general anxiety disorder, those feelings that I might have felt during that 10-minute or maybe the first 2 minutes of my talk, this person experiences them all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what defines mental illness, is that anxiety is normally for all of us. If you're not anxious, it means you can't be careful, then you don't find value in things. So anxiety is good. You know, before we all came on here, you know, we're feeling a bit of the nerves. The girls are joking that, oh, it's getting hot in here, you know, and that's normal. But the point is that problem ka anxiety disorders that how basically. So you are always in the space more feeling out of control, feel helpless, feel like it's like wow, judge and oh, I don't know, can say jacket green. Okay, now you're already feeling or maybe I'm looking, you know, inside of you basically, and I can judge you and I can see everything you're doing. So it stops you or achieve the things that you must be doing every day. So you stop avoiding going to work. Okay, and then maybe your anxiety is one of those sailing to a specific situation or an object. So tabadi lift. And now where can you go, like most lang lift? You see? So you start avoiding going out altogether, and then your friends will say, oh, you know, Aaron is a bit antisocial.
People think you're exaggerating. Like, but this is real. It's like, no, it's not. It's phantom.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand.
Why you choose when when I'm lift to go to the sixth floor, when I was doing a
So people just don't get it. They think, oh, no, you're exaggerating, or kitty fiesta, you don't want to explore other things. But it's actually real.
But tell me something, Itu. Has it always been like that?
No, for now, it started like a while ago while I failed matric. Like I always excelled, so it was traumatic. And from that point on, I just went into a shell. Like I just got nervous, I couldn't do anything for a whole year. Not going anywhere.
Because no depressed or matric after being a brilliant student, or no depressed or disappointed.
I think it's a combination of all of those, because it was the first time ever I gave in anything. So after that, things just went pear-shaped, yeah.
And then, like Uchor, sometimes we're trying to exaggerate. What does it feel like? Just describe it. Because sometimes, like, are not terms.
Yeah.
But anxiety, what? Come fella, what happens? Baba anxious. Baba nervous. Ne? Baba nervous more than Baba. Sometimes. Oh. So, Iba jog forward.
Like people think you're crazy. It's like, but it's real. It's like, no, just walk out or just do stuff. Like you can't, because in your head, the Lodina's bigger than what they are. And then if possible to control it, it takes control of you. And then that's why people then start, they don't talk to people, they become antisocial, they become hermits. But Gileka Mamela radio show, and that's how I got to know I was anxious. So it sort of helped me to some extent to say, oh, so this is just a mental thing to some extent. It's not as real as I thought it was, but every now and then it sort of kicks in.
What do you mean?
Yeah, no, I think into that's very important. Aishilo, abantu abaningi banada the idea would just snap out of it. It's not as bad as it is. Maga, at that point in time, especially when it's a mental illness, be it anxiety, depression, and so forth, it's not something you snap out of. There'll never come a point where, okay, man, iba sharp and then uzoba right. It's something that you really do need intervention. You must see a professional. You must take medication. As you do need to take medication like your bipolars and so forth. You can't just be okay. So abantu need to actually deal with Leo issue Leo rather than sweeping it under the carpets, because by doing that, if anything, it's just going to become worse and it's going to take over your entire life.
Mara, why is it a Bosch?
I mean, abantu bazothini. Yeah, unale consent aholo batho ba tlo reng, ba tlo nsheba ba rai o nkare ha normal or king why o se relaxed gobane ke ntho e o itjotsang gore I'd rather keep it to myself ke taba tsaka and then if ke tlo jwetsa batho ba bang obviously ba tlo njudge ba be le di opinion gore okay motho o so le mshebeng ha kena fela yabo e ba dintho tse jwalo ba ba le di comments and immediately how sa ba comfortable I'll be free at all.
And another main thing is just to, highlight for Batuko High the different types, ne? Most South Africa, on a daily basis, whether like radio, TV, or even newspapers, the headlines are always, about murders, accidents,
Yes.
about rape.
All the bad.
All of those things. And as a society...
Especially about rape.
Yes.
You notice I know how get okay, Lena, I actually have the anxiety, the sound. And then it comes to understand I had to move from bedroom and then this fear what if or and it happens every night unless if maybe that day and then I sleep gone.
That's the point.
I don't know, because it's funny sounds and there's no way the guy is like a furniture.
So exactly what Bosch is saying. So what I was trying to say is that some of the anxieties are real, the concerns are real, and as women living in South Africa in 2015, the fear of being raped or murdered, it's real for us. So some of the anxieties, or you and then we no. Some of the anxieties and the worries are real, and and they make sense. So what's different is that now how do we deal with that? So if you are so concerned about being raped and you're hearing voices now, you have to change even where you're living, then take time out, see a professional to say, look, this is my fear. And this is now how it's affecting me on a daily basis, because very soon you may not be able to sleep at all. And one of the symptoms is insomnia. You cannot disengage, you cannot turn your brain off, so to speak. So the sources sometimes of the anxiety are real, but it's then our reactions to them and the fact that before even as families, we had that family time together to debrief, ask each other, and you've got time to speak. Now even as families, we don't have that time anymore. So who are you debriefing with? Who do you share your thoughts and your fears with? And so we live our lives, out of check. So you're not checking yourself with anybody, and therefore you internalize everything. It's because you think there's something wrong with you. And I think as a society, in general, we do suffer a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, and many of us, we're just walking around with it, aware.
At what point do you decide, okay, yes, maybe social anxiety is real or at what point do you say, hi, I want to say affected too much, no, but before that, comment on Facebook. Abel Mabina, yes, there is, but mental illnesses vary. There are victims who aren't aware of their condition, so most negative comments towards them affect the family, which becomes secondary victims. Those who take medication are often mocked about to an extent where they are unwilling to take the medication any further.
That's very true. Because insight, it's very important. So we and have that judgment. Before we discharge, if you've been in a mental ward, we always check the insight level. So as maybe Sposh and you are on treatment or you're not, but there's those questions that to see is Sposh aware, is her self-awareness there? Because we need to be comfortable in a way to say Sposh knows her says 1, 2, 3, she'll come back for help, or she'll tell somebody, or
because
aware. And the problem with mental illness is that a lot of people don't have that insight. So treatment becomes a problem, because how do you give someone treatment or convince them to come for counseling for 6 months if or asaboni the complications of not going for treatment?
Yeah, because now challenging thing, where do I start? Do I even afford to see a professional? So a challenge.
And we'll talk about that how we're breaking, because then I want to know, okay, now that you kind of have an idea, maybe where do you start? We are
Yes, Okay, there's a number of things that came into my mind. But I think maybe just maybe for us to identify this anxiety and to clarify this thing, nervousness and that sort of thing. Remember, your symptoms might be real, they might be ideological, or you might have perceived. But the moment whether your fears are real or perceived, the moment they cause a disruption in your daily functioning, and they cause a disruption in your relations with your families, or in you being able to continue with your daily functions like going to work and that sort of thing, then it's a disorder. And that's what we look for before somebody is being diagnosed. But if you experience these symptoms but you're still able to function, you might actually, the best thing is for you to see a GP. You would not necessarily be diagnosed, but you could be given something that might be able to treat it without you actually you know, being diagnosed or that sort of thing.
But then if high heavy enough, or like if it doesn't stop you or be functional, and you take time, does it get worse?
Yes. And because remember, the stimulation is still there.
Yeah.
You know, you can.
Oh, like I said.
Erike breaking, like you said. You're gonna say it again. Okay, so April, okay, fine. Let's say you're a family member or ichomi might have anxiety disorder, but agayazba yona umnceda kanjani without offending them, because sometimes uthi emntweni hayi mamela akho right wena phambene fumana uncedo and then eba worse kaja sikakubetheke. So how do you identify the symptoms and where do you start, like nerjolist watch hore ke bokae uya ko kae ufonela mang ucela ka family ka ba dichomi na xa sibuye? All right, re gape go shift re bolela ka taba ya anxiety disorder, one of the mental illnesses tse leng gore rena batho ba bantsho nako nngwe a re tšele serious because re nana batho ba tlo go jaja ba re motlho mongwe a wa itekanela monagano. So today re ko wena, do not suffer in silence. Go na le thuso ka gona go ikhumana. Lebo, like you were saying.
Yes, like I was saying, akumelanga abantu, as soon as you realize ukuthi kunenkinga, akumelanga umuntu avela athula azitshele ukuthi leyo nkinga izohamba. Kubalulekile ukuthi uthole usizo from that point where you realize ukuthi it is disrupting my normal life. Angisakwazi ukuya emsebenzini, angisakwazi to take care of things at home, angisakwazi ukusocialize with my friends. As soon as it's distracting your normal life, you have to get help, because it might get worse.
Let's talk about that help.
I mean, Tina, as I said, we do offer that gateway kind of service where abantu bayakwazi ukuthi basifonele, even if it's just to check in. These are my signs, these are my symptoms. You know, angithandi ukuba around abantu ngoba ngibona ngathi bazokhuluma ngami, or you know, some of these things uzisho to the next person there's something wrong with you. So you can use that service just to check in ukuthi, okay, these are the symptoms. Mina ngime kuphi, am I okay? Should I be getting further help? So abantu are more than welcome to call us. Our number yetu is toll free on landline. From 8 ekuseni till 8 ntambama. They can just call us. They'll speak to a counselor. The number is 0800 567 567. Or bangasendeli SMS bese thina sizobafonela on 32312. So it's just to check in ukuthi these are the symptoms. Just to find out ukuthi, okay, from this point on, where can I go next? Is it something I need to see a psychologist for? Is it something I just maybe need my lifestyle changes? Am I anxious because I just drink too much coffee, or a lifestyle yami is causing all this anxiety all the time? Because it could be a matter of a lifestyle change.
Okay. And another thing is that what I like is that your phone, you don't have to say your name. You can still become anonymous. 0800 567 567. And then when how to that treatment after this is what might be. Because in Nike is
no, I can't get treatment. As soon as okay, this is what I'm suffering from. I sort of had a mental change, but I know I've got different situations. It gets elevated. Like driving for me is like, oh my Lord, I'm gonna die.
What am I spanning?
But then I go doctor, then I'm party dependency. So I know for regular driver, I need to take my medication. If I'm slightly nervous, is that tranquil? Can I say the name?
Tranquilizers.
So it sounds like an anti-anxiety or a calming tablet.
Okay.
So it sort of balances me because I'm too nervous because I'm on a first. Oh my Lord, there's a truck coming. So it's a getting calm, just focus on what I have to do. If you like a miracle, but then sometimes I really mild, you can only rescue remedy. So it depends on the situation.
And then family, do you deal about what you did or not? This is what's happening.
they think I'm an actress. They think I'm dramatic. So I just got over it. It's like, okay, it's my thing. I understand it. Maybe one day they will, maybe they won't. But as long as
maybe today, right now, what we shift.
Who knows? Yeah.
And they will understand.
So yeah.
I think that's one of the challenges we face in our culture. This thing, the moment somebody presents with, and especially anxiety, it's either olgwala, wataba, and arena as black people, the moment we don't understand something, you have to go to a sangom. And that's the first place we'll look for something of that nature. But it does not necessarily rule out that sangomas can't help, because right now we're actually starting to work with traditional healers to actually see how we can work together, because sometimes, especially with other mental illnesses, a patient presents with certain symptoms that you feel could be treated, but because they believe that a traditional healer can treat them, would rather let them explore that. Because I cannot help you as a therapist if you feel that this is not going to help and something else can help. So that's one thing we need to be, I think that's why we're having this conversation now, just to open our minds to the fact that there's not only one way, there are other ways that could help.
Mara, is it possible sometimes we're misdiagnosed, Dr. Tale?
It is possible, and it happens a lot, actually. And what's sad is that, 70% of adolescents, which is the youth, young people, and 70% of those people who attempt suicide on a yearly basis have anxiety disorder. So, and many of them have been turned away, or, they've been shunned away, or hidden even by family members to say, no, you bring in shame to the family, or or it doesn't judge. So a lot of the times it does get misdiagnosed. There's usually a big event, unfortunately sometimes sad or traumatic, and then people then pay attention to say, something is going on here. So I think the message today is, or and then you don't pay attention. Sometimes that's all we say. That's all we say. And and there are also medical conditions, medical diseases, that need treatment as well. There's things like the thyroid disease, which can really give you the symptoms of anxiety and mental disorder. So then you'll find that if you don't go to your GP or a physician, for example, to get a proper medical checkup as well, we may end up diagnosing you mental illness, something like a thyroid problem, Even heart disease itself, you will get the palpitations, you will sweat, you will literally feel like you are dying, And all those can also be symptoms of anxiety. So any mental illness is that you have to have holistic treatment. So like myself, Gili doctor, I have to work with SADC, for the counseling support. I have to work with someone like Tabiso, for the psycho-social support, behavioral change. So yes, medication but there's things you can do every day when you wake up. How do you think? The types of thoughts. And if someone are done routine, stick to your routine. Do things that you need to do on a daily basis to make sure you achieve a certain level of comfort within yourself, but also productivity, because that's what we want. Quality of life. These mental illnesses, as if now you have a mental illness, so you belong in a home, or you can't go to school anymore. There's a lot of people, but successful, who have mental illnesses, and it's just a matter of managing it well and holistically. So it's not one or the other, either medication or counseling. Everything is a bit more.
And yes, a lot of people always feel that if you are mentally ill, witchcraft is involved. They even be distanced from that person. Around the teenagers, 17, 18, I know, Sadek, you deal with a lot of calls, especially around festive, December, January, from matric, what do you think is the main cause maybe parents don't get to know? Especially around that age group.
As abazali, I think a lot of the times, because they're not educated about mental health or a good state of mind or a healthy state of mind. they won't be able to engage with their teenagers if born themselves they don't know about that. So it's very important ukuthi si-educate abantu on a wider scope, ukuthi siqale from our adults, move down to our teenagers. And as I said, we do go into schools, we do educate about, you know, young people about izinto ezifana nabo mental health, izinto ezifana nabo depression, because depression can happen to a young person. And it's very sad when a young person, I figure, to a point where they are willing to take their own lives and commit suicide, because azange bafile ukuthi anyone was going to listen to what they have to say. So it's educating abantu ukuthi depression is real, anxiety is real, and kuba nezinto eziningi that manifest from that. So izinto unfortunate. A lot of the times we talk about kuba nama dual diagnosis where people turn to substances and end up nama addiction and so forth because of what they're experiencing. Abazi
To
ukuthi
get out of the
bazotshela
situation,
bani.
drugs
Yes.
and
Abazi
alcohol,
ukuthi
yeah.
bazotshela bani. So to quiet the voices, to ease the anxiety, bagcine ba self-medicate and they fall into substances. So it's about making sure ukuthi abantu baya understand what mental health is, baya understand that izinto ezifana nabo anxiety. So umuntu doesn't feel ukuthi something is wrong with me. So let me at least let me try and drink because kuba ngcono, or let me try use this because, you know, when they are better educated, they're able to deal with it better. When a parent uyazi ukuthi yini anxiety, uyazi ukuthi yini depression, akasitshe ukuthi lona ama moods megasivalela all the time angafuni ukuba nabantu, of which ama symptoms, you know, they are able to address it and say, no, genzakalani. If you can't talk to me, can I at least refer you to someone ongakhuluma nayo and get the help that you need?
Let's say an example manje. Let's say there's a young girl or a young boy manje ubukele shift ukuthi vele vele mina la ekhaya mangikhuluma naba young chica bathi mina nganama moods bathi mina ngistot. Let's say yena uzothatha iphone afone lesadek ne toll free number 0800 567 567 nikhulume naye. How do you then help umndeni wakhe ukuthi bazomunderstand la endleni bangasamchiki bathi nama moods or stot?
One of the ways esibanceda ngayo ukuthi whatever esi-organizayo in terms of the help azoyithola, we want ukuthi family ukuthi be involved because that's very important. We can't just ukuthi sincede yena umntwana, be it depression, anxiety, substance abuse, whatever it is, family has to get involved because mesingasiza yena usamela buyele back to that household, back to that environment. So it's very important ukuthi the kind of help akayithola will always involve the parents. We are willing to post as much information, handouts, whatever the case is, mega ngasipa their full address so they can share that kind of resource within the household. Okay, read about
depression,
read about anxiety. Let's engage about this. So nizobona the kind of symptoms that are there, and you can start identifying. So they're able to respond better to loyo mntwana loyo.
And I think maybe for us to be aware that every behavior serves a positive intention. So in as much as the symptoms of anxiety do persist, they present themselves because they want to protect you. You are afraid of getting hurt, you are afraid of becoming raped, you are afraid of something bad happening to you, and therefore you start experiencing those symptoms in your body because your body wants to try and prevent you from getting yourself into that position of harm. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not so healthy. So even a child or anyone who gets to a point where they feel, you know what, I'm experiencing these symptoms and right now I feel the only solution in this problem is for me to kill myself. It's because at that point, they feel that is the only solution to that problem. So that's what we always need to be aware of, that, you know, in as much as your child comes and presents with these symptoms, be aware that at that moment, they feel that this is the only way out of this situation I find myself in. So as parents or as fellow community members, we need to be aware to try and explore with them various solutions to that problem. And that's where we come in as professionals.
And what's difficult, you know, for families is that you may have a child presenting and having the symptoms, but in fact, the bigger problem is the entire family structure. So you may find that the diagnosis, you know, at first a mother can bring a child to me and say there's a problem with this child. Wanoki problem child, hama meli, hapa siskolong, ibilo satsuba cigarette or whatever, right? And then as my intervention, I start talking to the child. And the child will tell me certain things that maybe they feel more comfortable sharing with me. And then I find that, look, perhaps the source of the anxiety is maybe the mother is using wrong methods of, you know, disciplining the child. Maybe there is some hereditary, genetic, mental illnesses that run in this family. And that requires now that the entire family becomes the patient. And you sort of finding yourself, working with the child, you're working with the father alone, you're working with the mom, you're working with other siblings who are now watching all of this unfold, and maybe they may be also starting to learn certain habits. Maybe they're younger, maybe they're older. So therapy at some point, and what I've seen for long-term benefits, it has to be a family. It has to be a family thing. It can't. We can't isolate in this family. At least saying all the bad things in this family. Therefore, no. The entire family. There's things that even as a mother, as a father, as a brother, even as friends, sometimes somebody contributing to that person who now becomes, the center of attention. So sometimes how sometimes and mental illness is because we shy away from it, because treatment means you must accept and say yes, we have a problem. And until sometimes for to just say and it means Linda maybe there's things that contribute to that.
Mental dishonesty hereditary. Anxiety?
Anxiety, yes. You've got things like obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, if wana washaha, right, kilisiya, and then hands are hula, rimruta, beha tauli mona, and then we beha so. Only there, and only that is allowed. Tauli haisa henga ante on the rail, wana washapua. So they learn, they grow up learning if you want peace in this house, I must put the towel exactly the way it should be. The spoon must be exactly the way it needs to be. We must wash our hands in a certain way. I mustn't walk in, you see. And that behavior starts being learned by the child. But you may find that the child has an obsessive parent who's now transferring that onto the child. Because remember, most of the of the things they learn, they get taught by adults. So we need to be aware, Lorna, as adults, what kind of children are we raising? What kind of values are we giving the kids? So if I'm proud of you, only then it teaches I'm not worthy of anything else except on that day when the report comes home, and then they'll be proud of me.
And which means that the end.
It's the problem.
And then it leads to on that day because Linda, it once happened report, and then
Why now envelope report? I will keep my market.
No, like from so from high school I failed, and then and then I feel no, it's better the results. This thing but disappointed.
Yo. Breaking because at the end of the day ulwazi luyanceda uba ngabaza assume izinto umntana akho uzawufika ezibulele ebeke inote wathi mama ndizibulele nje because ubuthe kwento ezincinci olo hlobo uthi wena umntana usitote umntana unemuzi umbuzo uhleli ke, is there a stigma around mental illness in the black community? Thina abantu abamnyama asiyazi but siyakwazi uyithetha siyidiagnose xa sibuye. So we've anxiety disorder, which is one of the mental illnesses. Is there a stigma around mental illness? Like but SMS 3720 shifted SABC.co.za email address and then social media zone shift on SABC1.
I think moving forward is for us to have a better understanding of anxiety gain and move away from the moment we have a better understanding, then we will not rather prefer to take a Panado because I've got a headache than take a Rivotril because I've got an anxiety problem. So the same problem that I have as a headache is similar to anxiety. So if we accept it as a fact that I'm presenting with these symptoms merely because these things that have happened in my past that are causing me to look at life differently, so that I start experiencing these symptoms, and if I take medication I'll be fine, or if I speak to somebody I'll be fine, then we can move forward with this.
I think in for I think consulting room ba ke ba fe ngwana chance a bue le doctor just one-on-one. Because a lot of the parents, you know, they've just become too controlling and they want to be there for everything and even speak for the child and don't give the child enough space sa hore a itlhalose yena hore o utlwa eng. And then how le mo le motswadi o shebile ngwana ha bua le nna, for example, hona le ntho ba tlo di bua ne o tlo ba very limited, very selective in what they say. And sometimes as batswadi o tla santsa a buleletse doctor ke tlisa ngwana stoutu or ke tlisa ngwana a tjena. Exactly. So I think what's important for batswadi is, you know, le ha o itse ngwana mo khape ne mara e re a bue le doctor a ka hlalosetse doctor yena ntho a utlwang ke eng, and then maybe they'll be more free. And then le rona jalo ka bo doctor, we need to be more aware and pick out those little subtle clues tse bang teng ngwaneng hore no mohlomong gona le bothata bo itseng, and be suggest as well, because batho ba ngata ba tsebe these things and they depend on us as health workers, whether ke sister ko clinicing, whether ke doctor in, you know, in private practice kapa ko spetlele. I think le rona as health care workers we need to be, you know, more hands on and more active. Le ho suggest hore mama wa tseba ne ke bona ka ring ha o ka etsa dintho ka tsela e tjena mohlomong ho tla ba beterinyana, and not necessarily wait for the formal counseling session. Some parents with some children you never get to see again, and maybe that was your one chance, you know, to make a difference in that in family's life or in the child's life, or, you know, even in that young adult's life. So even as healthcare workers, I would say let's be more active and just engage more.
Mina ngifuna ukuthi abantu bayazi ukuthi uncedo lukhona. You know, mesikhuluma nge-mental illness ubona ngathi okay kusho ukuthi kumele ngibone yini psychologist and so forth. Using ama services afana nowase-SADC sizokutholela the relevant help for you. If uyakwazi uku-afford a private psychologist, then by all means that's the kind of resources sokupha yona. If you can't, sizokwazi ukuthi si-organize within your community ukuthi yimaphi ama-facilities omele uwasebenzise, be it a public hospital or maybe other smaller facilities as offerable counseling, free counseling, sliding scale, and so on. So I want people to know ukuthi lelo sizo lelukhona and to not feel ukuthi they are alone kuleyo situation. Please use our services. There's other services that they can use, but because I'm here today, please sebenzisana ama services wethu. Like I said, if you're just not sure, call us just as a check up ukuthi okay, I'm having these symptoms. What's going on with me? Do I need help? And then we'll take it from there.
0800 567 567 ke mntasika, it's a free number yakwazi ufona ke ukwazi ufumana uncedo eSADC. Ke tota go wena Thabiso no itu o ka re go batho ba nagana gore you know what ba na le problem, ba na le dimutsi ba so ga ba understand, be it colleagues, be it friends, be it family members.
I would say there should be more understanding. Like people just don't come up with stories. So maybe they should learn more horbanil understanding, because occasionally felt out like a story randomly. And people shouldn't be too quick to judge for or drama queen or something, because it's something that is real. Just because you don't experience it, it doesn't mean it does not exist. So people should just be a little bit understanding.
Thabiso?
I wanted to just add that in our culture, or let's say among the black community, if we can just be more supportive and play a role even when your loved one is being admitted, because the biggest reason why we've got highest misdiagnosis in our black communities is because there's no collateral from the family. Collateral is just family information which seeks to describe the behavior or the symptoms that this client has been presenting with. So if your loved one is ill, be supportive, because that will enable them to get the best treatment.
When Sibosho uthini saptana kanjani efamily?
No, I think if iqala endlini then yeah kuzoba ngcono, because your parents will understand hore utswa ko kae, why you act so, and then even le ditšhomo how. I think friends also play a big role mo hore ba kgone ho thusa or kgone ho bua le bona before maybe even attending the professional. If u ka kgona ho ithuta ho bua le batho ba close ko wena, then yeah.
All right.
I think from there.
Gentlemen and ladies, thank you for coming through. I'm just hoping we'll save at least one life, because you never know. Somebody might have been sitting and thinking, let me just take my life right now, but maybe we're able to at least change your mind. Take that phone, make a call, rumela SMS, 0800 567 567, Google SADC, they're able to help you. At the end of the day, it's very simple. If we all understand, if we all have knowledge and we all have the love, we're all able to support each other as friends and family. Do it with the power of love as opposed to the love of power. Go right. Next on shift, another shift. Now results is there a stigma? 98% but yes, and 2% but you know. Sharp.